call the meeting to order for August 5th, the meeting of the West Sacramento City Council, Redevelopment, Successor Agency, and Financing Authority. We are meeting tonight pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order N-29-20, which provides for members of the West Sacramento City Council and staff to participate directly in the meeting via live teleconference. To reduce the spread of COVID-19, members of the public have been asked to participate in the meeting by live stream that's available on the city's website under the meetings tab, or via Wave Cable Channel 20, and also to submit comments in writing prior to the meeting by 6 p.m. All public comments have been provided to each member of the City Council, and they are also available to all members of the public at the city's website at the same location as the council agenda and this video feed. That we will note during each item whether or not public comment has been received, but the full text of all public comment submissions, and those are not limited to 3 minutes or otherwise constrained, is available publicly on the website, again, next to the agenda and to the video feed. The council did not meet in closed session this evening, so we're going to proceed directly to item 1A, which is presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the City Council. Madam Clerk, my understanding is we have no public comment items under item 1A, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, thank you. Then with that, we're going to proceed to item 1B, which is council communications. Are there reports or communications from members of the council from our liaison assignments as noted on the council agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I have a report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The YOLO Local Agency Formation Commission met on July 23rd, and we approved a request for out-of-agency water and sewer services in Davis, and also reviewed the executive officer's performance. My report. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Are there any other reports this evening?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Orozco.
Thank you. On July 22nd, the Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District met. We received an Echo Water Project quarterly report for April 1st through June 30th, 2020. The quick and dirty is that all the work is relatively on schedule and still under cost despite several COVID-related delays. It was a very good report report to the board. There was also a discussion about some savings is achieved with respect to issuance of the Regional Sanitation Series 2020 district revenue bonds. We're actually saving thousands of dollars by paying those back and terminating them early. And finally, Vic Chiotani, who has been with the Regional Sanitation District for over 30 years, finally announced his retirement. So we had a short celebratory congratulations session and wished him well in his next endeavors. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, if there are no further reports, we have no council appointments this evening, so we'll proceed to item 2, which is the West Sacramento Home Run Work Readiness Student Civic Engagement Project presentations. Assistant City Manager Berlin, it looks like Jeff Miller is joining us.
Good evening. Yes, I'll let Jeff go ahead and lead off the presentation on this item. Thank you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can now, yes.
Great. All right, well, members of the council, thank you for giving us the opportunity to present to you tonight. My name is Jeff Miller. I'm the Senior Program Manager for the West Sacramento Home Run. The presentation is to hear directly from students who participated in an 8-week course that the Home Run team developed in response to the COVID-19 crisis. Now, the students are ready to go, but before they begin, I wanted to give you a quick update on the second base programs this summer, and then I'll turn it over to Mandy Irvin, the Program Associate for the Home Run. So let me just share my screen. All right. Okay. As you know, the coronavirus pandemic led to widespread business shutdowns and slowdowns across the country and here in the Sacramento region. As a result, many communities decided to cancel their internship programs, whether for safety reasons or because their host businesses and organizations shifted to remote work. The home run team, however, decided that we would offer as many internships as could safely be offered, and that we would develop an alternative for students whose internships were canceled. As a result, we were able to offer summer opportunities to earn and learn for 27 young people. Now, what's interesting about that number is that last summer we had 28 home run interns complete the program. And this summer we had 27 between the two programs, the regular internships and the online course. So despite the pandemic, our number declined by only 1 student. Now, about half of the internships were done remotely, and the remainder were either a combination of remote and on-site work, were conducted primarily outside, or were conducted indoors following public health guidance. This is just a quick overview of the topics that we covered in the work readiness course. This is what the students you're going to hear from tonight have been doing over the last 8 weeks. And they're wrapping up on Friday. Friday is the last day of the course and the internships. As you know, the second base of the home run includes both paid internships and digital badges. Both of these programs were meant to give students opportunities to gain work experience and transferable 21st century skills. As of today, we've published 10 playlists and badges on the LRNG platform, and these are some of them. Some of the career technical education, or CTE, teachers at River City High School started incorporating these badges into their teaching last spring. We incorporated some of our LRNG badges into the virtual course, as well as a few badges published on the platform by other organizations. We also included a set of learner badges, which are part of an initiative started by the California community colleges called the New World of Work. And with the New World of Work, once a learner earns all 10 New World of Work badges, he or she receives a well-rounded 21st century skills learner badge. Students in the virtual course were required to complete these playlists and earn the badges, whereas the students in the traditional internship were given the option to earn badges for additional pay based on an estimated amount of time needed to complete the playlists. And 8 of the 17 traditional interns, again, those are the ones doing remote internships or on-site, 8 of the 17 earned at least some of the optional badges. And finally, these are all the people that were involved in the virtual course and the internship program, in addition to the home run team. We had several guest speakers during the course, including the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, who shared their knowledge of local government with the students. Several other people also helped with the practice job interviews that students participated in this week. And then for the traditional internships, we had 8 host sites, and they were evenly split between those that had hosted interns before and those that were brand new to the program. The home run team will provide a more detailed update on the second base programs when we give our annual report to council. Right now, I want to turn it over to Mandy Irvin, the home run program associate, to introduce the students. And I need to share a different screen, so I'll let Mandy go ahead while I'm doing that.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Good evening, Mayor Cabaldon and City Council members. My name's Mandy Irvin, and I'm the program associate for the home run. We appreciate you guys taking the time to hear from us and our interns this evening. And as Jeff mentioned, we had to get creative and find some solutions while we were sheltering in place. Besides doing workforce development assignments, all of the virtual interns participated in a civic engagement course. This allowed the students to interact with each other in a group setting and create a project that was meaningful to them. I'm really excited about this because I truly believe that civic engagement is one of the best ways to build social emotional skills that benefit students in the modern workforce. It also provides students with tools to help make meaningful change in their community. So every week, the students would meet with me virtually, and we would talk about local government, civic engagement, and the importance of a solution mindset. Each group of students chose a topic that was of importance to them, and they're going to be sharing those with you today. So the first group that we have up is Eric, Avneet, Christian, and Justin, and they're going to be talking about mental health in West Sacramento.
Next slide.
Welcome. Go ahead, Christian.
Hello. All right, I'm Eric D. Santiago. I'm a senior at River City High School.
My name is Justin Guan, and I am an incoming freshman at Sacramento City College.
And I'm Christian Villibigosa, an upcoming freshman going to UC Davis. And then next slide. So we'd like to talk about first the importance of early access to mental health resources. As should be kind of fairly obvious, mental health directly affects the wellness and lifestyle of individuals. Treating these issues early on can help ensure that the youth in the community are propelled to success and they don't fall into things like unhealthy coping mechanisms such as drug abuse or escapism. Something that I've personally dealt with, I've had trouble finding motivation to, especially in my early years of high school, to do work, especially with lots of stress piling up on certain days. And then I would find myself falling into escapism video games. And I didn't have a lot of people to talk to this about. And for now, I would say that I'm personally over it, but I know that there's a lot of people that still struggle with these issues within the community. So I think it's still relevant today. So next slide, if you would, Mandy. Oh, next slide.
I'm trying. It's not moving.
Oh, the cage.
Well, let's try the other. Apologies.
Okay. So we discovered that there are three main barriers that prevent people from accessing mental health resources. So we discovered there was stigma, accessibility, and awareness. So with stigma, there's a fear of being judged. An individual doesn't really want to be seen as weak, and they don't want to appear kind of vulnerable to people around them. And that might prevent them from accessing mental health resources. And especially in the case of teenagers, there's accessibility. Teenagers often lack the money, transportation, and the time to go to these mental health facilities, and they're much more likely to not go at all. And then lastly, there's awareness. A lot of teenagers aren't aware of the facilities that are available within the community. There's not a lot of promotion being done. And in general, when looking for it, it's very hard to find resources online and reach out for someone in person. Next slide, Jeff.
Are you seeing the next slide?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Christian, who's next in your group?
Avneet, I think he's having some mic issues right now.
Uh-oh.
I suppose I'll take over. So let's talk about why it's needed. So according to the World Health Organization, 1 in 4 people suffer from some sort of mental health disorder. And people with ADHD have harder learning experience because of this. And there's a lot of people that I know personally that suffer from ADHD, and it makes kind of learning in school much, much more harder for them. And it's very difficult for them to get help because it's not something that's very treated seriously within the school. People don't really want to talk about it, and it's something that's just kind of like hush hush in the community. So next slide.
So to understand the community, what we did was take a survey to 29 students, and we did this through social media. And we asked them a few questions, and the first question was, what prevents people? And they said shame, guilt, a fear of being judged, being labeled as unstable or crazy, or just financially can't do it. We also asked them if there's enough within the community. 82.8% said no. And we also asked them if they even knew there was any resources, and 69% said no. We found it surprising. Next slide.
So what we currently have, we have the Communicare Behavioral Center located on Jefferson Boulevard. For the requirements for going into the program is based on income. So it's on a sliding scale, and people who want to join in the mental health program need Medi-Cal. And then there's also NAMI, the organization on mental health. we tried to reach out through them and we're unsure of their programming. And we know it's listed on the city website, but we reached out, we didn't really get any response. So it's kind of difficult to say that it's an effective resource. The next slide. There's also the Yolo County Health Services that's available right across the street of Communicare. As previous, it's the same with income eligibility, with it being Medi-Cal only. And of course, it's a problem because it only serves adult. And then there's West Sacramento Urgent Care. That's also a place, but we've been told that they don't serve mental health, so it doesn't really apply here either.
So we believe that some of the programs are insufficient as community care behavioral health majority of the programs require Medi-Cal and some do not have Medi-Cal, and slightly above, so some don't have Medi-Cal and young teens can't afford mental services themselves, so which limits them to the resources they have. Also, we have contacted NAMI, as Christian said before, and we have never heard back from them, and the website is out of date. So we struggle to find anything about how we can meet them or how we can communicate. Next slide, please. So for the Yolo County Health Services only serves adults, and children go to community care, which is across the street. This is also based off income eligibility, which limits who can go there. And also West Sacramento Urgent Care is under mental health care in the West Sacramento City website, but we have called and they have told us they do not have any mental health care for us. Next slide, please.
So we found multiple solutions on how to fix this, and on the next slide, please. Our first way is by targeting youth, and two locations where we could do this is at the Collins King Center, which is right across the street from Rayleigh's near Merkley and the Yolo County High School. And the second one is at the Recreational Rec Center, and that is right next to River City. So we chose these two locations because it's easy and accessible for youth, considering each one is of close distance to a high school. And if you go on the next slide, please. Another way is establishing an online platform for people who can't access the mental health clinic. It's also really good now because of COVID and social distancing. It's kind of hard for people with transportation, especially. So this is a great option. It's also more comfortable for people who like talking digitally rather than physically. And for platforms, we have various solutions for that with Zoom, Google Meet, and even a phone call can work. Next slide, please.
So we wish to collaborate with other people, such as the recreational center within the River City High School. So for the recreational center, we would like an area for the school psychologist to be in, which allows for a one-on-one conversation with students. Also, students within the high school can join in and help other students with their mental health, as some find it more comfortable speaking with people within their age group. Also, we would like to tap into Communicare's services, as they already have existing ones, and we wish to improve upon what they already have. Next slide, please.
So a main issue that we mentioned before, the barrier for accessing it, is awareness. So it would be prudent to be promoting these programs at the same time. Social media is a good option. A lot of teenagers use social media in this day and age, and it's a great way of relaying information from multiple people online. And so we propose Instagram or Twitter through like online social media campaigns where there's a call to action where students may share posts and then they may share with each other and keep resharing it with each other so it reaches more people and has more engagement. There's also the option of coordinating with the school to ensure that all the students in the school are aware of the existence of programs that might exist in the future. The next slide, please. And we know it's not an easy task to kind of fund all of this. So we actually looked into potential grants that could apply for this as well. These two particular grants, they focus on promoting early access to mental health services for children and adolescents, which is exactly what we're aiming to do. So next slide, please. And then we would just like to thank the city council members for their time. This is the end of the presentation, and we reserve the rest of the time to answer any of the questions that you may have.
Terrific. Thanks so much to Christian and Justin, Eric, and me. And Mandy, we have another group of students coming up next as well. Is that right?
Yeah, so next up we
Okay.
have Jackson, Oscar, Shayal, and Micah, and they're going to be talking about the proposal for more teen-focused services in West Sacramento.
All right. So why don't we actually, if you don't mind, Mandy, why don't we take any questions or feedback from the council with this team first while the presentation's fresh. And so we'll turn it to the council. I first want to say thanks to all of you for the work that you did. This is outstanding. The combination of research and asking the hard questions, of looking at the existing services and following up and trying to figure out from a person's point of view, a user's and a consumer's point of view, how would I get access to this? How would I find it? And using the website, you could have asked Mandy, well, do you know anybody at NAMI, for example, but you didn't. Instead, you're like, well, no, let me approach it like somebody who might need services. And that's what we call that user-centered design. And it's really, so a very smart way to look at this. You're finding them to say, hey, let's meet young people where they are. And your focus on the recreation center and the teen center, excellent. You anticipated everything we might have asked with, okay, now how do we pay for it? Just really a comprehensive approach on a really important issue, and very thoughtful and action-oriented and urgent, but also with a lot of attention to how to make it happen. And Mandy said at the beginning of the presentation, the emphasis on a solutions orientation, which definitely is a hallmark here in West Sacramento, and your team definitely displayed that. It is this topic that you're presented on tonight is so critical for the city. In fact, this issue of mental health, and in particular about making sure that every resident in the city, including young people, know about mental health services, and that we reduce the stigma, and that we make sure that everyone has access. That's been a key strategic plan item for the city. And so, yeah, there's some staff people in City Hall that should be thanking you very much for having really moved the ball down the field on an agenda item that's high priority for the city. I remember 2 years ago when Councilmember Ledesma, or 3 years ago when Councilmember Ledesma first said, hey, the city doesn't provide mental health services. The county is the main provider of mental health. But this issue is so important, and it affects so many people in our community, that we need to both facilitate the additional services, but also, very importantly, connect people to them and make sure that they know where to get them, they know how to get them, they can afford to get them, and that they don't feel any stigma at all in accomplishing that. And so this has been a high priority, for the city and for the council since that time. I want to particularly acknowledge Councilor Ledesma for his leadership in that space, but outstanding job, and also a great presentation. All right, members of the council, Councilmember Roscoe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You said it exactly what I wanted to say. Congratulations to this team on an excellent presentation. I won't take too much of your time on feedback, because I know that at least one of my colleagues, including Councilmember Ledesma, who's championed this effort on behalf of the council for many years, would probably like to say a few words. But it's important to me to hear the feedback from the lens of our youth in this community. A couple years back, I actually challenged our police department to do an essay contest or a bookmark contest, because I really wanted to see what it is, how it is that the youth in our city really viewed our city and the problems and the challenges we have. And so your presentation really did really hit the mark on what our kids are looking for, and how they would navigate the traditional American institutions in order to get what they need. And if there are barriers, we need to know. And today we found out a lot. I really appreciated the recommendations. Justin over at the Teen Center, someone I've been working with for many years, and we had a conversation recently about whether or not the Collings Teen Center could be a location for tutoring for kids in the community. And I didn't even think about mental health and partnering with organizations that provide these types of services and having them even pay visits, or if stigma were the issue, having the other types of outlets where kids could enjoy services without feeling the additional pressure that would again weigh on their mental health. But there are other nonprofit organizations. West Sacramento is very rich in nonprofits. And for example, the Yolo County Children's Alliance, they do a variety of multi-services within the city. And so, the fact that you guys did your due diligence and look for different types of partners to address this issue is commendable. I also want to just comment on the presentation when there were technical difficulties. Y'all rolled with it, and that happens to everybody. And I appreciated the professionalism and your eloquent presentation. Thank you so much for coming before us to share this valuable information.
All right, Councilmember Ledesma and then Councilmember Guerrero.
Thank you. Just wanted to say thank you to the team here. What a great job you did, and I'll echo Councilmember Orozco in that first on a little bit of form than substance. So you're right. It's just presentations happen. You get a little technical glitch. You guys rolled with it. So kudos to you. Very well put together. And I did. The mayor kind of articulated what I was thinking is from the perspective of folks, our youth, or folks who need services on mental health. Was one of the things we had talked about early on, and kind of how we could help the community. And at the time it was really just how do we even connect with the county, but you really put it in a perspective of those who really would need it. What do they see? Where do they go? What are they thinking about in terms of services they can get? And I know you kind of put up some 4 medical facilities here and in the city, and we know about those. And I think it's really important that we look it through your eyes, and where can we go to get, where can we have services available possibly that could meet teens and youth at the places they are. I think it's an incredibly important perspective. So I want to thank you for taking this on, and let's not be done. I'm available. Do you want to, there's follow-up work that needs to be done that you want to take on? I'm certainly available to help further that, because the mayor's right. At the end of the day, part of the proposal would be like financially, what could we do about it? And there's no magic answer to that. It's really about thinking about it, planning about it, and then trying to work its way into a kind of a budgeting solution. But this is important to us as a council. We've been working on this, trying to figure out ways we can connect more with the community and services to the community. So I want to thank you for pushing the ball a little further. And again, I'll make a personal commitment to each of you. If this is work continues, happy to help out. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Guerrero.
Christian and everybody that participated in this assessment of our mental health services in West Sacramento, thank you so much. Commendable work that you've done. I don't know if you know, but I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I've been on the Yolo County Mental Health Board here in Yolo County now for about 16 years. And so I do have, I think, quite a bit of expertise on the gaps of services. And one of the areas is hearing from people like you. Thank you for sharing your personal story. I know it's vulnerable and scary to express what you've been through and the hardship you have, and still facing the challenges in your life today and figuring out what kind of support is available for you. And so I know that this is a personal endeavor, but it's something like that makes change possible, because you know how important that is for others because you experience it firsthand. And I also have a little grandson who's received mental health services and support for trauma. So it's it's a challenging time for families. And I'm sure your parents want to see you get the best support you can get. So I know you really dig deep and hard to find these services. And I'm really glad you did. And I'm really happy to hear, with the presentation, what not only the need for early intervention, how that's extremely important, but the solution for that intervention early on and reaching out to others. I got to tell you, the voice of a youth is more powerful than any one of us here, sitting in front of you. That is more powerful. And so what you described as a solution bringing in youth into the picture and empowering youth and a call to action, that's an excellent proposal. And I want to, do whatever I can to make that happen. On the mental health board, the board members are considering the approval of the Mental Health Services Act. And that funding is county-wide. And it had funded in the past crisis intervention teams. And prior to it funding that, it was a bill called SB 82 that established the crisis intervention team, which is the law enforcement and clinician team. And that's how Mark Sawyer is now on our team, on our staff, in the police department. And the dedicated outreach was focused on homelessness. But I also believed, Christian, that we could do better than that. I also believe that we have major gaps going on in West Sacramento. Not only as you described for some of the challenges, but you also described substance use issues. And I think that we have a long way to go in addressing that. We've done something on flavored tobacco and other resources to prevent youth from getting access to that, because those are addictive. But I think we have a lot more to do in educating youth on the effects of substance use. And so there's a combination of youth who are struggling with anxiety, with stress, and they resort to either alcohol or substance use. And it's real accessible. It's not like, it's hard to get. It's out there, marijuana, whatever's out there now. So I do want to partner with you and making that happen here in West Sacramento. And also providing the resources. Karen Larson is the Health and Human Services Director, and she's shepherding resources countywide. So whatever I can do to connect you with her and share your proposal as a public comment to the Yolo County Board of Supervisors so that they can see your research, they can be educated about the gaps in West Sacramento based on what you've identified, and they can learn what they can do to help our youth. I don't think this has been done countywide, and I think you have done a tremendous job in providing a major resource. So I just want to be able to encourage you to do that, and I'll be providing Mandy and Jeff with the information on how to make that happen. The amount of money that's going to be provided for youth and early intervention is in the range of $382,000 for a 3-year project. For K through 12 school partnerships, it's in the range of 3.3 million. So I think there's going to be a little bit of money there for a project out here, or maybe countywide if we can expand on that. Cultural competence is another area. I think there are youth and families because you don't not just want to touch the youth, but you want to encourage the family to participate. So making sure that they're culturally competent and services are accessible for them. The other area, Christian, is access to resources. And ALICA is another program that has been participating in providing indigent, it's not just indigent, but anybody can walk in. And it's a new program as of 2 years ago, they've expanded. And ALICA is a federally qualified healthcare center. So anybody who needs mental health services can walk in and try to get services. And I know as a youth, you do need parental support. But as a young adult, you can probably get access to resources. So, I don't want to hesitate and wait for these funding opportunities to get out there. Whatever we can do to get started on that now is definitely one of my priorities, and I want to be supportive of your endeavor. Thank you so much.
Great, Christian and Justin and Eric and Ahmed who popped off the screen. Thank you again, Christian. And I know folks on council are familiar with you already. Christian was one of our 2 representatives last year to the National Mayor's Youth Summit. And he's been very active on a range of issues like this. But you heard some great offers from members of the council, and I encourage you to follow up with Council Member Orozco about the Teen Center as an example and her work there. Just as an aside, I think what we've learned from a lot of other issues on stigma is what you pointed to, which is that we used to say on issues like this, we used to really sort of heavily congratulate people for dealing with an issue that was so hard and it required so much courage and it's so difficult and it's such a big challenge. And what we've learned from the science is that actually can increase the stigma. That instead, the extent to which you have services accessible that are sort of casual, they're right there, they're right across, they're right near the pool table at the teen center, they're near the ping pong table. You just go in the other room and get services. You don't make it into a giant deal and tell folks that thank gosh you've made it into that other room. And so your proposals around meeting people where they are really important ones. And I also heard I'd be happy to join you in demanding of the local mental health board, where are those services that we need here in West Sacramento? These gaps that you've identified, we deserve more resources here in this community. And the local mental health board needs to be held to account to make sure that those needs are being met. So thank you so much for your presentation. This work was incredibly impressive, a real testament to River City High School and to the school district, to the home run program. Mandy has done a great job of facilitating, but this was really terrific. So thank you very much, and we'll let you go because you don't need to stay all the way through the end of the meeting. Invite our next panel of students to come forward. Mandy, if you reintroduce them. Oh, sorry, Mayor.
Sorry. I was just going to say it's great to see all of you again, and I obviously took up a topic that is really meaningful to the entire council. As you just heard, we already have ideas for you and want to take your teamwork and your work together forward. I want to thank the staff as well for being flexible and modifying this program kind of in the moment as it was going. Obviously, by the product you shared with us tonight, it's been a great success. And so I want to thank our team. I also thank our youth who participated this summer in this different format. I'm really curious, although I think we need to move on. I think the learning experience you probably had as a team to do this work virtually will serve you well in the future. And so I hope that kind of work and working on a project like this together is something that as you go on in West Sac, at Davis, at Sac City, River City High School, that you take these lessons forward. Obviously, you did really great work because we're already engaged and want to go, and you just gave us a really succinct and focused presentation. I really appreciate your work. Thanks.
All right. And Christian, say hi to your mom for us, please, too. All right. Thanks, Mandy.
Yeah, so we have two more presentations. The next group is Jackson, Oscar.
That's a cue to us as the council to maybe be a little more concise. So we don't have.
I'm sure they love hearing from you.
They do, so but we can't expect them to be here till 11 o'clock. So
that's true. So the next group is Jackson, Oscar, Shayal, and Micah, and they're going to be talking about teen programming that's for teens in West Sacramento.
Nowhere to go, the problem with teen activity in West Sacramento.
Hi, I'm Jackson Wetzel. I'm 17 years old and I'm a senior at River City High School.
Hi, I'm Oscar Zaragoza and I'm a 17-year-old senior at River City High School.
Hi, I'm Shaya Govan and I'm a senior at River City High School.
Hi, I'm Micah Roscoe, and I'm a junior at River City High School.
Micah, we all want to know: are you related to Councilmember Orozco?
I don't believe so.
Could I be so lucky? He's my little brother.
The question was on everyone's mind. Welcome.
Okay, I would like to address the issue that teens face in West Sacramento every day, which being the issue is they don't have a designated place to go other than school. Personally, my routine when we did go to school, if I didn't have any clubs or anything to do after school on campus, me and my friends would either one, go straight home and do nothing, do homework, I guess, and then two is we would go to the Southport Center and just hang around. We would walk around Target, go eat at East Side, or even sit at Starbucks, but this usually led us getting kicked out by the owners because they would just get mad that we were there for too long. And then the next slide. The problem in West Sac is that there is no designated place to go other than school, Like we have activities at school, but other than that, there's really nothing for us to do. And this affects all teens in West Sacramento that go to all different schools. And next slide.
Along with teens not having a designated place, along with teens not having a designated place to go, teens also have a lot of free time, which can lead to bad decision making and even higher risk of illegal drugs being used. Teens with substantial unsupervised time also are 3 to 8 times more likely to partake in risky behavior. Especially now with COVID, teens have no escape from the stressors of home. With that, the next year's schooling being online, teens won't have sports or clubs to let the stress out. The time lost with sports and clubs will increase the screen time. Studies that are currently ongoing show that increased screen time may affect eyesight and attention span. So how are teens in North Sacramento feeling?
From the quotes that we got back, 19 out of 21 students on the survey said that they do not feel connected to West Sacramento. Majority of the quotes were similar to the ones below, and they didn't feel that like they had a social group to do things with, or they had any activities that interested them.
So we sent a survey to 21 students in West Sacramento, and almost 3/4 of the students reported that outside of school, there weren't very many activities for them. And in addition to that, 1/10 of them also did not feel that they had any opportunities in or outside of school. Next slide, please.
While we see in this graph that 60% of the responses were yes, they are in the club, we should still worry about the 40% that say they aren't. The 40% should feel that they are part of the community.
So in the survey, we asked, what type of activities would you rather do after school at a teen center? And everyone who took the survey voted on just a place to hang out with no structured activities. And some others asked for homework help, college career help, but the main focus was they just want a place where they can sit with their friends until they want to go home.
The solution to this problem would be to create a teen center at West Sacramento Rec Center. This would entertain them, reduce their stress, serve as a safe space, and reduce tension between students and store owners. This problem would be an issue year problem, as not every student is involved in activities after school, and COVID has made them feel more isolated now. Next slide, please. The benefits of a teen-focused program would be that teens would have a safe space to go to for those that don't participate in any structured activities. Teens would be safe and supervised by an adult, and this would create less tension between students and store owners.
As for the location of the teen program, our 2 primary locations would be the West Sacramento Recreation Center and the Community Center. The Rec Center would offer easy access to River City students, as it is less than a 5-minute walk. It is right next door, after all. It would also easily house a teen program, but students who don't attend River City will be at a disadvantage because of the location. It will be more distant for them. Also, the community center is directly across from City Hall, and it is also large enough to house a teen program. But it is also occupied by other organizations who will also vie for the time, so a consistent schedule may not be possible. Next slide. In addition to the 2 primary locations, we have also observed the boathouse in Bridgeway Lakes as a possible location. While students living there can access it easily, like the rec center, those living farther away will be disadvantaged. And the last facility we have is the Collings Teen Center, which is located near Rayleigh's. It is already established and it is an average distance away from all schools. However, it is smaller than the other locations and is not as well advertised. Next slide.
You're on mute, Shayal.
Oh, okay. Can you guys hear me now? Okay, so you might wonder what a teen center might look like inside. So we envisioned two separate rooms. One would be a hangout room and the other one would be a study room. In the hangout room, we would have comfy couches, TV, video games, board games, just a place where they could unwind from the day and just hang out with their friends. And then the other room would be a study room where there'll be desks provided so they can do homework, computers and printers. Tutors can come on certain days if they need help, and also college and career help.
At this time, COVID-19 prevents these ideas from taking effect, but socially distant activities can be organized that achieve the same purpose, including drive-in concerts, movies in the park, and community service. Next slide. We would like to reserve this time for any questions you might have. And we'd also like to thank you for your time listening to this presentation.
All right, well, thanks for another outstanding presentation. Really great job, well-structured, a good mix of narrative, story, the experiences of individual people, in some cases yourselves, along with data. You did one of the things that we are very insistent that our staff reports all do, which is you explored alternatives. You didn't just come up with one idea and stick to that. You said there's a whole bunch of options, and each of them have advantages and each of them have disadvantages. And we're going to be very transparent about that, and in order to help make a better decision together. And you looked at the data as well. Now, I'll give you, I'm a college professor as my other job, so I'll give you one other suggestion. The first group told us where their data came from. They said, we did surveys and we surveyed folks using social media in our own networks. So I knew that the responses that they were getting back were mostly from their friends, right, or folks who were connected to them. And so that allowed me to understand that it wasn't a random sample of the whole city. And as you were presenting your findings, and you're presenting, 88% of young people say they would like to have a chance to work after school, versus 100% that would like to just hang out. For those to be meaningful, you have to know, well, what is that a percentage of? Is it a percentage of the friends that you all have? Is it a friends of students who attend River City? And what have you. So so the best advice is to be very transparent when you do survey research with who the survey is, and don't assume that whoever's receiving and listening already knows what that information is. So, but really great mix of methodologies in this as well. So when we turn to questions, I'm going to ask, just because we do have one more round of students as well, and I know the overall comments that were made in the last round, I know I'll apply this time too in terms of the quality of the presentations, but if we do a quick round with the council, if we could try to make just a point or two and stay within a minute or so, that would be terrific as well. So members of the council, Councilmember Roscoe, you've been our lead liaison with the Teen Center, the existing Collings Teen Center. Would you like to lead off?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I will keep it short. Yes, I spent a lot of time at the Collings Teen Center, and I appreciate the leadership of the staff there in reaching out to some of our most vulnerable populations. But this presentation was excellent in a different way, because not only, proximity is everything. And I know that there are a lot of kids that are looking for things to do, and sometimes they'll go to Target or the Nugget or just hang out there at the bike trail. And you're right, we do need opportunities for kids in their areas, especially those who don't have transportation to get to and fro and have positive enrichment activities after school. So I really liked that. A couple days ago, I was at the Sacramento LGBT Center taking a tour of the premises there, and I was so impacted by the multiple meeting spaces. There were so many big rooms for people to gather, and obviously right now people aren't gathering, but when that time comes, people will have a safe space where they can really share and be inclusive and embrace the diversity of their community and be who they are. And I really look forward to seeing something like this come to fruition. And thank you for the idea. I mean, I think that in a lot of ways we've all tried to envision what this could look like, but you really did show us. You even provided an exhibit of your vision, and that is greatly appreciated. So great job, guys.
Mayor Pro Tem Sandine.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to this was a really important one to hear from your perspective, since it's about a space where your colleagues, you and your colleagues. So I really appreciated that. I also was thinking about the teen space in the library. I know the library is closed right now, and I know that there are some other niche places where there can be partnerships, I think. So but it's really good work, and I really appreciated you identifying some of the barriers like folks that hangouts actually impact business owners, et cetera, in the community. And so that really makes the need that much stronger. So I really appreciated your kind of earnestness with the approach for this report. Again, I hope working as a team virtually was a useful experience.
Councilmember Guerrero.
Thank you. Jackson, Oscar, Shael, and Mike, I think you did an excellent job in presenting from your point of view the major gaps that we have in our city, in understanding what it is we need to do to reach support for our youth and additional activities. And, you know, I don't see a need to have to wait, but take a look at our outside spaces where I think we do have some to provide, you know, like you said, a drive-in or other resources where there's plenty of space in between. We have quite a few parks where we can provide that kind of support in a structured, supervised setting. And I like the idea that you have supervision included, such as tutoring or college guidance, or, you know, whatever additional support you need. Looking forward to partnering with you to see what we can do to, you know, to move these recommendations forward in West Sacramento. I think there's a variety of options, including the different geographic regions, maybe having more than one. So that way we can have locations accessible for our youth citywide. Thank you so much. And I appreciate what you've done. It's very good work.
Councilmember Ledesma.
Thank you. And thank you as well for the good work. And more so, as my colleagues know, I have my youngest daughter just graduated high school, and you just validated everything she's been telling me for the last 4 years in her teen life, that there's nothing to do in West Sac. Where can we hang out? And, but you put numbers to it, and the mayor gave you some pointers on how to handle data and presentations. But the qualitative information is important too. Hearing from you directly and stories about where you hang out and what you need to hang out. And I think this is an important subject. We just don't have enough voices coming through to us. I have my personal ones, and they've been telling me, but this was a well-constructed presentation to kind of give a more thorough view with really good options about where we can think about it. And we just maybe missed the season here as summer's winding down and everybody gets back to school here with the open spaces and maybe using some of our parks or other areas. And it's something that it really resonated with me. So I want to thank you for bringing it to our attention and appreciate the work. And there's further work we can do. I'm looking forward to it. So thank you.
Great work. Thanks. Mandy?
So last up, we have Jessica, Jamie, and Madison, and they're going to be talking about the benefit of having public art in West Sacramento.
All right, thank you, Mandy. So as Mandy mentioned, our proposal is to implement murals in West Sacramento. And if we could move on to the next slide. I would like to introduce myself properly. My name is Madison Herr, and my team, we call ourselves Young Pigeons, a workability collective. So I will let the rest of my team introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Jessica Chan.
And my name is Jamie DeQuickway. All right, and if we could move on to the next slide, we would like to introduce the idea of murals.
So why are city murals important? Well, there are a lot of benefits. The three main points we want to highlight are that it builds a sense of community. Since it's art created by the community, it will be for the community. It promotes culture and diversity through the content of the mural. It also attracts businesses for local merchants because people are more likely to come to areas where there is a lot of art. Next slide, please. And here are some examples for city murals we could have. So this is a greetings from Chicago. We could have something similar for West Sac, and inside the letters, we could have things that comprise of the things that make West Sac, West Sac. Next, please. Here is a COVID-19 mural. We could also have one in order to honor the frontline workers working really hard right now for this crisis. Here is a mural of a girl surrounded by traditional Polynesian patterns. We could also have something similar to showcase the variety of cultures that we have in Sacramento. Here is just like a fun mural that people are likely to stand in front of and take pictures, which would help increase revenue for nearby businesses. And this mural spreads the message of teamwork, and we could also have our own mural for West Sacramento to spread its own message that it wants to send out. And for our research analysis.
So based on a survey that we sent out to the community with 20+ responses, the majority think that we should implement murals into West Sacramento. One person said, unfortunately, West Sacramento still has this reputation for being ghetto or bad. I think murals would help bring a more positive image to the city, allowing people to see that we are a city that is vibrant and diverse. And similar to that quote, which summarizes the rest of the quotes we got, it mainly would help display the diversity we have in West Sacramento, while also adding a bit of color and making it more pretty. And according to also our survey, the majority of people are very neutral with the amount of places that they could experience culture or art. And then to the next slide, whenever people would travel to another city, most people said that they do take pictures in front of murals. So that would always be a good idea to go and have that in West Sacramento.
As for the economics of murals, it costs about $25,000 to $35,000 to paint a mural, but it can be significantly cheaper through the use of volunteers, and different artists have different rates. There's also grant offers. Most offers for this kind of thing is a 1-to-1 ratio match, so they only cover at most 50%. And one example would be the National Endowment for the Arts. Murals also require very little maintenance. It benefits the local businesses. An example is from Beautify Earth, where they painted a mural for $1,000 on the Metropolitan Cleaners in Santa Monica, and it increased their revenue by 50% and their foot traffic by 20%. And it just improves the image of the city, leading to people to be more likely to invest in it. Next slide, please. As for the proposal.
So what we propose is for the next 5 years, we would paint different themed murals all around West Sacramento. So for example, we would have a COVID-19 hope and awareness down in the overpass on Jefferson Boulevard. And then the next year, we could always have a depiction of West Sacramento as a community at the Port of Sacramento, and so on and so forth. And then on the next few slides, here are some photos of places we could put murals, such as the overpass, like I mentioned before, on both sides. And then the next one would be the Port of Sacramento right over here. And then after that, there's also the abandoned Safeway building that's facing towards Jefferson Boulevard.
As for the process in our proposal, what we would need to implement murals would be consultation from the Arts and Culture and Historic Preservation Commission, which is already a part of the city of West Sacramento, and aid in getting permission to use a location, as well as funding for materials and compensation for the hours worked on the mural project. And if we would get into the next slide, we would also like to propose a way to involve the community with this mural project. So we could have a community art contest where citizens can submit art designs or ideas that could be implemented as a mural, as well as the ability to recruit local artists and volunteers to work on these projects. And as we move on to our conclusion, I would just like to reiterate that murals would be a great addition to the West Sacramento environment, because West Sacramento needs to create a sense of community to amplify its culture, diversity, economy, and livelihood. And arts and culture is a great way to create that identity, as well as uplifting local artists and their work. And as we heard from our survey responses, many people believe that murals would be a great addition to the city, as it would present West Sacramento as a more inviting and welcoming community, as well as, portraying the community. And the meat of our proposal, we would like the city to aid us in following a timeline where we would place one mural in a new location each year for the next 5 years. And what we would need from the city and for ourselves is a planning team, painting team, location permissions, and funding and assistance once a year for the next 5 years. And that wraps up our proposal. So I would like to thank you, City Council members, for your time and reserve this for any questions, comments, and concerns.
All right, Young Pigeons Collective, great job. Superbly presented. The presentation itself was in a presentation about the power of art and visual art in particular. Your presentation mirrored that in terms of the quality and the creativity of the presentation. And so even if you didn't hear every word, and I know we were all like paying very close attention, but even if you weren't, you were feeling the power of visual imagery that you were talking about at the same time, and it was very strong in that way. Your use of photos, but not just of murals, but also of the locations. So as you talk about them, you know, it's really important in a community like ours. We often talk about places like everybody knows where they are, and many people do, but we're a diverse community with lots of different little pocket geographies, and your attention to those individual places was quite impressive. But I think what impressed me the most was your attention, like soup to nuts. Here's our idea, and here's how much it's going to cost. Here's a cost-benefit analysis, and here's what it's going to take to implement it. And that's where so many, you know, big ideas go to die. Is when people I have this big proposal to do this, and then the vote happens, it passes, it's all done, and then you ask 5 years later, well, what happened? And it's because they didn't pay attention to what you just did, which was lay out what's the time frame, who's going to do it, you know, who are the exact people that are going to work on it, what partners do we need? So really great job at preparing something both compelling and doable. I'll just give you a quick aside, which is when I was first elected to the city council, this was one of my big priorities, not murals specifically, but public art. And we were still a young city, and there was no council member that would second the motion to have a public art policy in the city. And people in West Sacramento, you know, what people would say here was, you know, that's for like Davis and you know, for university cities. And you know, we're not about art. We need to just take care of the basics. And what you described today is what I think our whole community has come to over time, which is that art is one of the basics. It tells us who we are, tells us our history, tells us the tensions in our history and in our present, tells us our potential, tells us about one another. So really fantastic job. I was very inspired by what you did. And I would also note Madison was this year's West Sacramento representative to the National Youth Summit. So you can see our community has been extraordinarily well represented at the national level as well. So thanks to all of you on the Young Pigeons Collective. Great job. All right, comments, Councilmember Ledesma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and terrific job to the team putting this together, and a really good presentation, as the mayor pointed out. And you know, this is a couple points resonated with me. First of all, on the presentation itself. Well, let me go back a step. What resonated with me was how you articulate how it could have a sense of city, and I want to give you a quick anecdote around that. That is so true. If you've been on the riverfront, you've seen the artwork that we put there on Subtile. And as well, sitting right down the way is the West sign and the barn. And a true story. I went by riding my bike down the riverfront and by the barn. It was closed that day, but there was a couple with a really nice camera taking pictures of the barn, and they had heard about the artwork on our river, the shiny tree as they knew it, not Subtile, and they were captivated by that. They got pictures of that. They got pictures of the barn. And it does create that sense of place that people want to come see. I think that's one of the things we know about artwork, and I've become a huge supporter of of public art, and it's such a part of what we do. So thank you for noticing. The other part too is a little bit on, you know, we have had conversations with the folks, the leaders around Wide Open Walls, which is the mural festival that happens every year in Sacramento. And they've approached us on more than one occasion about how we can participate. So your ideas are really, I think could be close to implementable, because the one thing that I heard was the lack of sites. And you guys went in this presentation and really pointed out some really creative areas that I'm sure you put in front of a really good artist, they might have that opportunity. So kudos to you for not just telling us, put artwork on walls. You actually identified some really cool sites that with some artwork are throughout the city that everybody could enjoy. And I think this is a really good presentation that, again, sometimes we have an idea of how these ideas we put forward happen, right? But it can take another turn if you leverage another opportunity that gets you to the same place. So again, this might be one of those things that we can move forward by leveraging a nonprofit that does this all the time. So again, just want to send kudos to you for a great presentation, great ideas, and the thoroughness of providing us with options and sites that could come in handy. So thank you.
Great. Councilmember Roscoe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Briefly, I just wanted to commend this amazing all-women team for a fantastic presentation, well put together, great visuals. What Mayor referenced about, being one of the few people who could recognize art as being such an asset. I mean, I could identify with the other people because I didn't grow up in a very beautiful part of Sacramento. There was no public art. And frankly, I don't know that I appreciated it until we had it here in West Sacramento. I was remarking a few meetings ago about, I saw a rap artist, actually a singer, who did an album cover, and he used the backdrop of one of our artworks in West Sacramento to be the cover. And it just gives me a sense of pride in our city. We are not just a place where, there's a lot of buildings and factories or whatnot. This is a place where people live and breathe and thrive and learn and play and call home. And so, yeah, we should reflect that in art. Yes, we should have local artists come and show us what they got. And thank you so much for bringing this before the council, because it is a very, very important part of our community. And I hope to get there soon.
Councilmember Guerrero.
Just want to say, Madison, Jamie, and Jasmine, you did an excellent job in elevating to our awareness some of the unique opportunities we have and what we can fund. I think some of the artwork you've presented, some of the examples, and some of the incentives this can provide for the businesses so that they can maybe invest. It can be a collaborative effort with our businesses, as well as attract grant opportunities. So you've laid down the foundation of a good plan that we can see how to implement down the road in seeking grants and other funding opportunities. I can imagine a lot of people coming together and using their creativity and our own community members who are talented. There was a Chamber of Commerce magazine that highlighted some artwork all around the city, and they did a little map, and it was really cool stuff. And then we also have our West Sacramento Historical Society, who's got some really neat stuff. So integrating all of that, I think, is and your plan is really innovative and something we need to definitely explore and move forward on. So thank you so much.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem Sandine.
Thank you. I want to thank you as well. This is a topic near and dear to my heart. I oversaw public art at UC Davis while I was there, and so really pushed this and made it tangible and I think realizable, which is really important. The other thing that came to mind while you were presenting was the connectedness between these three presentations in some ways. That the feeling that you have about your place can help with in some cases with your mental health. When you're feeling proud and you're feeling connected, when you can imagine teens saying, let's meet at this mural or whatever. I'd like to have a space and a place that's meaningful. So I think taken together, these are a really great set of presentations. I want to thank you for this particular one, but also all the teams.
All right, well, Madison, Jamie, and Jessica, thank you so much for being with us tonight and for a really outstanding presentation. As you heard, lots of interest, and I know Katie Jacobson and others who've been on our staff who've been working on many of these art projects. they're in the meeting right now as well, and I'm sure they were both inspired by what you've described and ready to continue to partner to make this a reality. So thank you so much. And Mandy and Jeff, terrific set of presentations tonight. Really extraordinary to see what you and some of our younger residents have been able to accomplish and to do in an incredibly challenging time. To come forward with optimistic, positive ideas about the future that build on the best of what West Sacramento is, while also looking at at where we can do better and where we have to do better. But being smart about it, being pragmatic, and communicating in a way that's powerful and that is going to lead to real action. Really fantastic work and a great demonstration of what the Home Run program is doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
And credit where it's due, the civic engagement thing, that was all Mandy. So
all right. Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks to all of you.
All right, with that then we're going to proceed on to the consent agenda, which is items 3 through 11. Now, I know we have a couple of items. We're going to remove item 6 from the consent agenda altogether and take it up separately. And you also have council also has a memo from the city manager on item 6. And just because of the addition, we'll take that one up separately. Are there other items on consent that members of the council wish to remove, or any item for separate question or comment? Councilmember Guerrero?
Yes, 7, 8, 9, and 10. For comment only.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Sandine?
Item 4 for comment, and I think you probably will mention, Mayor, that we received public comment on item 10.
Yes. Okay. All right, and Councilmember Roscoe?
5, please.
5? All right. Okay, so that's almost everything. So the first is item 4, which is consideration of approval of a professional services contract with Kimley Horn and Associates for design of the Cycle 9 Federal Highway Safety Improvement Program projects. Mayor Pro Tem Sandine.
Thank you. I really just have a comment and a suggestion for this. I think this item really sheds light on the Highway Safety Improvement Program. And it's really important, I think, to our community to know that we continue to look at and make progress and work on signal improvements and safety improvements. So I want to thank the staff for doing the work on this and to bringing this forward. The suggestion I have is that I noted in the staff report that the Transportation, Mobility, and Infrastructure Committee didn't get taken up by them, and I understand that because it really isn't necessarily a policy issue. But I'd like to suggest that at their next meeting that they receive a briefing because of the content of this, and I think it's really important for them to be kept up to date on this kind of project. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Mayor Pro Tem Sandine, and this is also, I believe this item was prepared by Ali Mua. This is his first council item. Am I correct, Vin?
That is correct. Yeah, briefly, Ali Mua recently joined us. He has 3 years experience coming from the private sector. And absolutely, we will take the item to the TMI Commission at the next.
All right, thanks, Vin, and welcome aboard, Ali. All right, that brings us into item 5, which is consideration of amendment number 2 to short form services agreement with the Townhouse Motel for COVID-19 related services. Councilmember Orozco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is mainly for comment only. I'm supportive of this item for the purposes I've mentioned in various past meetings with respect to Project Room Key and a hopeful Project Home Key down the road where we can provide at least temporary shelter for the most vulnerable in our community. With that said, it reminded me, having read this item, that just of how exorbitant the costs are and what the local motel owners are charging folks to reside in those places. And about 4 years ago, I remember speaking with one of our local homeless residents who could spend about 90% of her check, her SSI check, on shelter, and it would buy her about 2 weeks at a local motel because it's essentially $1,800 a month, which is more than most homes, or lots of homes, I should say, maybe not most. And I find that just incredible, given that a lot of the motels in along the corridor had issues, even with our motel inspection program that was brought to us about 3 years ago. So with that, I grumble about the investment, but it just highlights the problems that our homeless residents are facing when they're looking for any type of affordable housing, and they have to pay $1,800 a month, which is the market rate for these rooms. So with that, it's just commentary. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Roscoe. We'll return to item 6 briefly after the consent agenda. So that brings us into item 7, which is consideration of resolution 20-81, authorizing a Department of Justice sexual assault kit grant and authorizing a budget appropriation for the grant funds awarded. Councilmember Guerrero.
Thank you. Yes, I just want to commend the police department and all who organized securing the grant to achieve getting the sexual assault kits. It's very important so that we can identify any source of criminal activity and handle that expeditiously. So thank you very much.
All right, item 8 is consideration of resolution 20- Oh, Councilmember Roscoe.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wanted to, it was pulled, so I didn't double pull it. But as for item number 7, I wanted to reiterate those the comments. As a sexual assault prosecutor, some of the most important data and evidence that we can present before a jury has to do with biological and scientific evidence. Juries these days, they want absolute proof, not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And unfortunately, with sexual assault cases, there has to be adequate corroboration in order to prove the case to the jury's satisfaction. In this case, sex assault kits are the vehicle that gets us to those convictions. So while it isn't a tremendous amount of money, it's absolutely a step in the right direction. So I too commend the staff and who have worked on this and are moving us toward getting these cases to justice. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8 is consideration of resolution 20-80, authorizing acceptance of the California Department of Justice Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Grant and authorizing a budget appropriation for the grant funds awarded. Councilmember Guerrero.
I just want to, thank the staff. I see Donna Jones as the analyst who prepared the report and whomever else, organized in securing this Department of Justice grant with part of the police department for the work, much needed to be able to secure funding to, prevent the spread of COVID amongst our first responders, and very appreciative that they did this. So thank you very much. Commend the work you've done.
All right, item 9 is consideration of approval of a contract extension for janitorial services provided to the city of West Sacramento. Councilmember Guerrero.
Just want to also thank the staff for working with the representatives of the janitors. They are very appreciative of the contact you've made and the collaboration to take a look at the amendments that are happening, with additional labor law changes for the sanitation and workload for COVID-19. So thank you.
All right, and item number 10 is consideration of agreement with the County of Yolo for animal control services for fiscal year 2021. Councilmember Guerrero.
Yes, I just wanted also, thank, Aaron has been working closely on the implementation of what are the next steps, but seeing that this is happening in the interim, just, want to thank him and the work he's done to work with Yolo County to see what we can do to address animal sheltering. We do have quite a few animals that end up, especially around the 4th of July, who leave their home and run away and who've been found injured. So very appreciative of this contract. Thank you.
All right, and as has been previously noted, we have received one submission under public comment under item 10, and that has been provided directly to each member of the City Council and is also available to all members of the public on the city's website, where this video feed is to be found, but also where our full agenda is recorded as well. So with that, that's the consent agenda. Is there Councilmember Roscoe?
Thank you. Before I make a motion to move, actually, we did have one that was pulled. Is that correct?
Item 6, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make a comment on that last item, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Sandine and I have sat on the City County 2x2 committee for several years now and have discussed this matter sufficiently. I think we all express a bit of frustration when you see an injured animal and you have to wait an hour and a half for someone to come from Woodland in order to help the animal, or either the opposite when you have to transport them. And this is not a nominal amount of money that we're investing in this to keep the shelter running. With, of course, I'm wondering how much we as a city really do benefit personally. So I read the report and I know that we're considering looking at additional options. I do think that down the road, contracting with Sacramento and or building another mini facility here that we could share with partners that are a little bit more similarly situated would be appropriate.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Roscoe. Mayor Pro Tem Sandine.
Thank you. And Councilmember Roscoe mentioned our work. I also just wanted to take a moment. The public comment we received, I thought was something that I think we're already working on internally, not necessarily related to the contract, but the licensure of animals and then the education piece, I think are really important, and they're important to us. So I just wanted to bring that up because I feel like this contract is something that's related to an actual item that we need to take up with animal services, but this program in our cities is important as well. Thanks.
All right, then with that, is there a motion on the consent agenda minus item 6?
So moved.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Roscoe and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Sandine. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on the consent agenda minus item 6?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Sandine.
Aye.
Councilmember Orozco.
Aye.
Councilmember Ledesma.
Aye.
Councilmember Guerrero.
Aye.
And Mayor Cabalden.
Aye. All right, so that motion carries. The consent agenda is adopted. So now we'll return briefly to item 6, which is consideration of resolution 20-82, authorizing submittal of a home key program application, and resolution 20-83, authorizing an appropriation in Measure E funds to finance due diligence activities for a home key program application, and authorizing the city manager to commence negotiations with willing motel owners and enter into exclusive negotiating agreements. Mr. Huerta, I asked to pull this from consent itself in order to just cover the changes that are being suggested in the memo from today. I think that as but the council is well aware, the state released the notice of funding opportunity and availability for the home key program that our city manager and you have been involved in the creation of and in the feedback on, as our city manager is one of the leading experts in the state on this program and its implementation. And as the governor's visit here early during the COVID emergency to highlight the effectiveness of Project Roomkey, and noted that West Sacramento was one of the top performers statewide in providing shelter to homeless individuals during the COVID emergency through Project Roomkey. That we've been very, very, very central to this program, and thanks to that and the capacity that we've built in constructing affordable housing, including the permanent supportive housing project that's underway with Mercy, that we would be in a good competitive position, and we wanted to essentially rush to the counter to turn in our application. So that's why we're taking this up tonight, and why also I believe from the memo that the manager provided, you have additional information and a modification of the ordinance of the proposal that you might just briefly describe.
Yeah, certainly. So the modifications that we had to do are a result of the interest that we have received from potential motel owners who want to sit down with the city and discuss potential acquisition. So we are requesting that the up to amount of the application be increased to 15 million. That will allow us to negotiate with a handful of motel owners who have shown significant interest. The other resolution, resolution 20-83, we are recommending that the Measure E funds that we initially requested for our due diligence activities be increased from 100,000 to 150,000. And again, this would allow us to begin those due diligence activities like appraisals, phase 1 assessments, physical needs assessments on the properties that we may be contemplating for acquisition.
All right, terrific. Thanks so much, Mr. Voigt. This is I'm very proud of the efforts that have come together thus far, and even the recommended changes for this evening represent some significant, at least potential progress here. This program has several stages, but the strongest position that any community can be in is to get their proposals in as soon as possible. Because the money will be, money will continually be reallocated to those places where it can be spent. And that's largely because the vast majority of the Home Key program funds are federal funds that, as you've noted in the report and again tonight, have to be spent by the end of December. And so this program will end up favoring those communities that, one, have a record of accomplishment and can deliver, and two, get their applications in quickly in ways that will be competitive, and that's what this resolution is accomplishing. Now, you noted the increase from a little over $6 million to just over $15 million, and I think it's important to emphasize that that's the amount of money that we are asking for. So we don't have $15 million to spend. We've received so far virtually nothing in CARES Act or other support during the COVID crisis, so we don't have many resources of our own. And that's why this is such a compelling opportunity for us. So many folks in our community ask constantly, what are you doing what is the city doing to help the transition of some motel properties to other uses along West Capitol Avenue, including some motel owners, frankly. And the success that West Sacramento and Yolo County had with the Bridge to Housing project was a terrific example of how that partnership can work. And it's one of the models for Room Key, and now it is the model for Home Key. So if we can get to conclusion and make real estate transactions work with one or two or three or four motels along West Capitol that are prepared to move forward with this process, we can both continue with that economic development work, but more importantly, provide housing and shelter for folks who would otherwise be homeless in our community, and to make transitions for folks who are in the Room Key program into Home Key, and to really create the kind of housing that is affordable for and accessible to those who need it most, and to not end up on the streets of our community. And so this is a really, if we prevail, it's a huge win for West Sacramento, for our folks experiencing homelessness in our community, for folks who want to see our West Capitol action plan become a reality and our downtown to thrive, and it can be accomplished with a very significant federal and state investment. And so I really appreciate the work that you and the city manager have done and the rest of the team in order to get to this point. Clearly, the next stage, as you've described, that is going to be important, is finding those willing motel owners that all the way through the process of securing the land transactions. And so what you propose tonight is based on the intent that we've at least, I know through the work of yourself and Mark Sawyer and others in the city administration who have worked with many motel owners, not just over the last weeks, but over many years, to develop the relationships and an understanding of our mutual needs, that several motel owners have expressed interest in moving forward with this process. And that's a huge huge opportunity for us and for them. Now the question will be getting all the way to closing the transaction, making that deal work. It is essential from my perspective that we be as competitive as possible, and also as prudent with our own resources. And so there is this threshold in the program for a $100,000 per door, not door itself, but per unit essentially, threshold. And if you go over that, then your costs go up as a city. And I think it is important in this round that we insist that $100,000 threshold be kept to, that we really and that the motel owners understand that this as we rush to the counter to submit proposals to the home key program, that we're rushing to the counter with those proposals that are so good that we don't need to spend 2 months thinking about them and talking about them and doing public engagement and hearings about them. They're so good based on what they will do for homelessness in our community from West Capitol Avenue and the financial value to the community, that we're prepared to move forward quickly. And so I think we're all hopeful that we will get to those deals. There is no guarantee, of course, but if we're able to do so, the potential benefits for both motel owners, but particularly for homeless individuals and for the vision that this community has had for West Capitol Avenue since 1987 will be significantly advanced. So thank you for your work. Councilmember Ledesma?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just a quick comment that thanks to the staff for, you've been on top of this in the beginning, looking for these opportunities and keep in touch with what was happening in the state. So just kudos to Earl and the team for, like I said, getting this ready and looking at the opportunities. I know we've had a few conversations about this. We know what the reality of actually making those transactions happen is next. And that can be a bit cumbersome, but we're going to be early, hopefully, find out early, hopefully some success, and we can get on with that business of our due diligence and negotiating. The one thing I do want to say, though, is just to the funding of this, the $150,000, and very much so, this is the idea of Measure E, and having that measure put in place in 2018. Thanks to the taxpayers who understood the need to address these kind of needs. We've always wanted to have, we knew that we couldn't do a lot with it, but it would be there on opportunities like this. And so very much I support the use of the Measure E dollars to kind of get this started. And that's what we intended, and we drafted Measure E, and certainly as policy about how we would use it as a leverageable fund to kind of go after these opportunities. So just kudos to the team, and looking forward to hopefully get some good news back on this. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councilmember Ledesma. And the leverage here is $100 to 1. I mean, it's just a huge opportunity, and it's the reason why the council has insisted and adopted policies that really did reserve these funds for opportunities to leverage. And rather than every year, hey, I want to spend every penny on some brand new program that's 100% funded by the voters. No, we said, no, this pot of money is where we see an opportunity that comes along once in a while to really draw down resources from the state and federal governments or private foundations or others. We want to be able to get it. And this is just a great example of the voters' wisdom in funding that sort of leverage fund, and $100 to 1 payoff is really, really outstanding. So Councilmember Orozco, Councilmember Orozco is our lead on homelessness issues, and I'm hoping Mayor Pro Tem Sandin is our lead on affordable housing construction. Will also weigh on this as well. Councilmember Orozco.
Some of the comments that I had have been said, and I do want to echo the mayor's comments about the trying to keep the cost under 100,000 per door. Is that 100,000 or 1,000? I'm sorry. I thought it was 100,000. 100,000 per door. I thought I had it right, wrong the first time. Because I certainly want to take advantage of this. And that's absolutely right. We have been very stingy with Measure E for the right reasons. We entrusted our voters that we took their trust and promised them that we would only use this money on opportunities that would really make an impact. And so far, putting the money toward a fantastic homeless coordinator, and funding a program such as the Downtown Streets Team, which has made a tremendous impact even on the complexion of our city so far. But also programs just like this, where we can go and in on an opportunity at a short time period because we have been guarding those funds for the right purpose. So I just really want to commend staff. It's an honor to serve on a council that can be so proactive when it comes to issues such as homelessness. And this is one of those opportunities that is going to help us not only meet that long-term vision for West Capitol Avenue, but also make a tremendous impact on the lives of some folks who have found themselves homeless in this community.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Sandy, and then Councilmember Guerrero.
Thank you. I'm really hopeful that that we're successful, and I know the heavy lifting that staff team and Mr. Huerta and others have done to get us to this point, that this is a possibility. And as Mr. Ledesma mentioned, the leveraging of Measure E funds and Councilmember Orozco, I think that is exactly what was expected when the community wanted to see these things happen. And so this is the perfect opportunity for us, and taking care of our most vulnerable in the population is the goal here. And I just know that this is very time sensitive, and I'm glad that we're ready and can get this together in the time needed. And I think that's where we have an advantage, because we're thinking about opportunities. We're ready for opportunities. So, Mr. Huerta, I know this is a big lift, but thank you. Thanks for the work in getting us ready for this.
Great. Yeah, and also we haven't mentioned it, but we're in this position also in part because of the Successor Project Room Key, which we were a junior partner in with Yolo County, and so the Supervisor Villegas, Supervisor Sandy, the rest of the board, the county administration has done an outstanding job on Project Room Key and its variants, and it's those agreements and that track record that is putting us in a position to be able to potentially do something truly transformative in our community, on one of our main streets, and with so many West Sacramentans experiencing homelessness. Councilmember Guerrero.
Thank you. Yes, I just want to thank Raul for all the work you've done on addressing homelessness. Early on, before we actually had an emergency declaration, I was in talks with the governor's office, looking at a major $1 billion proposal with the Homeless Coalition. It was a big coalition, and it was $1 billion at the time when we had a huge general fund surplus. And then we found ourselves transitioning into finding resources and housing for our unsheltered guests. And those had, to prevent the spread of COVID. I think that the governor had the foresight to think of how to address this, and working with you and the city manager to be prepared as Project Room Key was announced here in West Sacramento. So proud of all the work you've done to make this, a resource for our unsheltered guests in the community. I also want to commend Mercy Coalition and all of those that have volunteered in the Winter Warming Center. I know that at the time that program was in place, and it had to transition into Project Room Key because, we have a lot of volunteers who are retired, and they really do a tremendous job and are still working in providing meals in Yolo Food Bank. And so those volunteers are going to be essential as we move forward to expand now to Project Home Key, because this is going to be a major workload on the city. And I'm looking at opportunities, Raul, that this funding provides. We, in the coalition I worked with, I know we helped craft all the language and all the opportunities. And I'm so proud that, West Sacramento is benefiting in providing access to housing for our unsheltered guests. And so one of the opportunities that I'd like to bring to your attention, which I don't think we have in West Sacramento, is boarding care. And boarding care is an area that statewide we've had gaps. So to the extent that we can take a look at some level of housing for boarding care guests, that would really be beneficial. Those would be individuals which I know in the mental health system, especially those with mental illness, are having a very difficult time finding housing. And so if we can see what we can do in working with Karen Larson, I know she was part of a major work group, and I brought in West Sacramento because Jim Provenza was also interested in finding dollars. So we tucked in language in making sure in the $550 million that boarding cares could be purchased. So they're eligible. Also in the operating costs for Project Roomkey, I just want to make sure, and now HomeKey, just want to make sure we leverage as much federal and state funding and through the county. And so, whatever I can do to help partner with the county, there are programs such as the CalFresh program, the in-home supportive services. I know I tapped the county for that, for additional supportive services, because I don't want to deplete all of our operating costs. We can use our operating costs for years on forward. That does not have a sunset as of December. So we have a number of years to be able to tap and extend the utilization of those operating costs. So, I know you're in a rush to the finish line to be first in line at the counter with our proposal, and then working with you to as we were crafting the language, making sure that our city was eligible and participate, being a major participant, and we'll want to continue to do that, working with you, making sure that we draw down all the funding to be able to provide housing for our unsheltered guests. Thank you.
All right, so we have the revised item before us this evening, and just to emphasize, the revised item is the full scope of authority that's being voted on tonight. Any additional projects or work that is being done, our designated representatives on these two programs, on HomeKey programs, are through the Housing Authority and related programs, Mayor Pro Tem Sandine, and on the Executive Commission on Homelessness, Councilmember Orozco. And other than that, our full range of our policy is in this resolution that we are taking up tonight.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded. And Madam Clerk, if there's no further discussion or debate, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Councilmember Orozco.
Aye.
Councilmember Ledesma.
Aye.
Councilmember Guerrero.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sandine.
Aye.
And Mayor Cabalden.
Aye. All right, that motion carries. So that concludes the entire consent agenda. We'll now proceed to item 12, which is consideration of a public hearing and adoption of resolution 20-79 establishing the 2020 Washington Underground Utility District.
Okay, good evening, Mayor Cabalden, members of the council. I'm Gary Prudale, Capital Improvement Manager with the Department of Capital Projects and Transportation. And I'm going to start the screen share for a short power presentation for this evening. Okay, let's see here. Okay. This will be a short presentation. I just want to highlight some of the different things associated with Rule 20A and the what we're calling the 2020 Washington Underground Utility District. So moving on to the first slide here. Rule 20A, what is this thing? I spent over 30 years up in the state of Washington, and we did not have anything like this. And so this has been somewhat of a learning experience for myself too, as I've gone through this, learning exactly what Rule 20A is, what does it mean? And we as a city have not been involved in this in a while, so I wanted to give you just a real brief background as to exactly what it is. Rule 20A is actually Electric Rule 20A, and it's a rule of the California Public Utilities Commission. And what it does is it actually authorizes electric and telecommunications utilities to convert overhead utility lines and facilities to underground. And Rule 20A provides the regulations associated with that undergrounding. In accordance with Rule 20A, PG&E will actually replace its existing underground facilities along public streets if such undergrounding is found after consultation with PG&E and after holding a public hearing to be in the interest of the general public based on one or more of 4 criteria. I won't go through this criteria right now. It is in your agenda report. And if you have any questions relative to it, we can come back to that. The actual undergrounding is paid for by what are known as PGE work credits. And these are actually allocated to communities that have PG&E or another electric energy provider within the city or within the community. It's sort of a black box formula. I won't get into it, but we receive work credits each year, and they are what are used to pay for this undergrounding work. When the work credits are not used or carried over for an extended period of time, the community is deemed inactive and the work credits can be reallocated to other communities. And that's the situation in which the city finds itself today. We were just recently notified that we are in inactive status within the last 2 months, actually, by PG&E, and that sort of started this process that we are involved in tonight. I want to give you just a real brief historical context of Rule 28 within the city. The city's been involved with Rule 28 projects in the past. I do not know how many, but the most recent one was actually begun about 12 or 13 years ago and was finished in 2012. That project was actually along 5th Street. Some of you may remember it. I wasn't around, so I do not remember it, but that's what I've been told. Historically, Rule 28 projects have been difficult and time consuming when the city has acted as a project manager on the projects. And this was most certainly the case in this last undergrounding project. From what I understand, it was very difficult and very time consuming for the city to actually get this project complete. Because of the time period since the last Rule 28 project, as I mentioned, the city has been deemed as inactive by the PCUC and therefore, or excuse me, the CPUC, and therefore its work credits are subject to reallocation to other communities. The city was notified actually less than 2 months ago by PG&E that unless it becomes active by August 11th, 2020, so in another week approximately, a portion of its work credits will be allocated to the city of Live Oak. That's not a may, but they actually will be reallocated. So how do we become active again? Per the Public Utility Commission, in order to become active again, the city must hold a public hearing and establish an underground utility district by resolution prior to August 11th. The city staff has looked at this really carefully, and we believe it's in the best interest of the city and its citizens to become an active community again, and therefore not be subject to reallocation of our work credits. Working along with the Economic Development and Housing Department, staff decided that an underground utility district along portions of East Street and F Street in the Washington District provided the most benefit to the city. We have named that project the 2020 Washington Underground Utility District. And PG&E has actually agreed to act as the project manager of this project, therefore eliminating much of the difficulties that have plagued city staff in previous Rule 28 projects. So actually establishing this district, just wanted to let you know that all affected property owners and other utilities that are on these poles were duly notified of tonight's public hearing by U.S. mail, and the hearing was also duly published by the city's paper record. That occurred actually about 2.5 weeks ago. Yesterday, we were notified by PG&E that East Street is currently not eligible to be included in the underground district because it does not meet any of the criteria necessary for inclusion. Because of this, the resolution and the boundary map have been revised to eliminate East Street, and the council has been provided with an amended resolution and map that should have been done this afternoon. I want to let you know that the amended resolution still establishes an underground utility district and accomplishes our primary goal, and that is to be deemed active again by the CPUC and by PG&E, and therefore not subject to reallocation of our work credits to other communities. Staff will continue to work with PG&E though to get East Street eligible for inclusion in an underground utility district in the future. And when that occurs, we will again go through these same procedures, essentially another public hearing and resolution to include East Street in an underground utility district. This is just a picture of a map of the district. It just will include F Street from 5th Street over to 3rd Street. And this evening, our recommendation to the City Council is that a public hearing be held regarding the adoption of Resolution 20-79, which will establish the district. Find that the 2020 Washington Underground Utility District is exempt from CEQA analysis, and then adoption of Resolution 20-79, which establishes the 2020 Washington Underground Utility District. I know that was a very quick run through, and I am here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
I have a question in absence of, that's all right. You mentioned a couple times that this proposal won't be an issue this time in terms of the staff's perspective. Did I hear that? It sounded like there have been issues in the past. You mentioned that.
Yes.
Time, so
yes.
that's not a concern at this time.
No, it is not. We worked very closely with PG&E in actually pulling this together in a short time period. They've actually been very helpful. They have stated that they will, and I guess this is somewhat of a change from in the past, they will act as the project manager if we request them to do so, and that is our intent to do so. Essentially, the city's responsibility will be the formation of this district, which we're doing right now, and then coordination with them throughout the project. But they'll do the design of the project. They will work with the other utilities in making sure that they remove their overhead facilities and underground them also. And they will work with the property owners as far as actually hooking them up to the underground facilities and quite often the replacement of their service panels at their homes. So yeah, it is our belief at this point that it will not be the issue that it has been in the past.
Thank you. Looks like I'm chairing at the moment. Councilmember Guerrero.
Thank you. I had a question regarding the criteria and how we, either find a way to be eligible or how we amend the criteria to be eligible for, I think it's E Street. And I'm looking at the map where there's a lot of trees, and I think undergrounding we would really benefit from that area compared to F Street. So just any suggestions on how we can make some changes with that?
Yes, absolutely. We had believed, number one, we had believed that East Street was eligible because it serves as a promenade to the Riverwalk Trail. Most of that currently occurs, as you know, east of 5th Street. We were trying to make the argument that, once this is done along F Street, or excuse me, on the west side, it will extend it. We are planning on right now, actually in the design of putting curb gutter and sidewalk along that same section. That still didn't swing our case. However, what we are planning on doing is to look at it from a couple of different ways. One, F Street is eligible because it is a collector arterial. We as staff believe that E Street is serving the same function, and it's our intent to attempt to reclassify that with the state to a collector arterial. That in and of itself would make it eligible. The other area that we want to look at a little bit too is evidently the Public Utilities Commission is they're looking at adding a criteria for historic areas. This area is within the old Washington district, although it hasn't been designated as a historic area yet. It may be in the future, and so that may also be another avenue to actually get it eligible for undergrounding.
Thank you. Great work.
Thank you.
Gary, I was hoping you could make a clarification though, because I think we're dealing with two different issues there. So this has to do with the project being eligible for credit under the Rule 20A program.
Right.
If you could clarify the scope of our actual project on ENF, I believe still includes undergrounding on both streets.
No, the undergrounding would only occur on F Street at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Because it's not eligible, we aren't actually able to do any undergrounding and have PG&E pay for it through the work credits at this time. In the future, if we can get it to become eligible again, we will go through this process again, hold a public hearing, have the council adopt a resolution, and hopefully include it in this current project, even if we can do that quick enough.
Mr. Ledesma?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So first of all, I am supportive of this, and thank you, Gary, and the staff for putting together the actual plan to underground and district. My years ago now, over a decade ago on the Planning Commission, there were just so many conversations we had around when we got to just simple things like lot subdivisions or whatever else were going on in those neighborhoods in Bright and Broderick. And the topic always came up was undergrounding power lines and how do you get to this? So I'm glad we've picked back up on this. I'm not sure why we went off of it or what constitutes, kind of staying on top of it, because it doesn't sound like you can accumulate enough work credits on an annual basis or every couple of years to make meaningful progress. But I think, I'm glad PG&E kind of woke up to it, alarmed us of it, and then I'm glad they've been helpful here, but we need them to be helpful elsewhere in this neighborhood, right? And E Street is an important corridor. And there's other areas in Broderick and in Bright that are equally in need. So whatever we can do to institutionalize some sort of process to ensure that we're looking at every opportunity we can get to kind of make progress in this area. It's been a long time coming, and it does a number of things, as you've articulated and aware, undergrounding from a safety perspective, but also just enhancing the neighborhood in and of itself is important. And I did have a question regarding the district itself, because is the district simply the mapping necessary for PG&E to define its scope of work? There's no other legal use as a taxable entity or taxing entity, or that property owners are going to see they're part of this district now, just like a community facilities district or some other lighting district that we set up. There's none of that associated with this. It's just simply for purposes of undergrounding. Is that a true statement?
That is true. It's specifically for undergrounding. One big difference that they'll see this time, as opposed to the program 10 years ago, the PUC now allows work credits to be used for the actual connection from the street back to the actual homes or businesses. Okay. And actually will pay for the installation of new service panels. That is something that we need to authorize as a city. It is our intent to do so. Good. But that should alleviate a lot of the issues that occurred in the past, making the district so difficult to actually implement. Honestly, people didn't have the money to do that, I would imagine. And so that created a lot of issues. As far as the length of time in between, I don't know, having been fairly new to the city, I don't know the complete history of why it was sort of dropped for a while, other than it was a very difficult time for, was my understanding. And you're right, there's not a lot of money that is credited to us on an annual basis. It's been almost 10 years, and we currently have $1.6 million, which to do essentially the 4 blocks of work, if we were to do both F Street and E Street, it will take the money that we have and borrowing ahead for 5 years, which they allow to complete that. So over $2 million to essentially do about 4 blocks of work. So it's an expensive prospect, and it takes a long time to actually put together enough work credits where you actually have a project that can be done and where it makes some difference.
No, I get it, but
yeah,
again, we can just kind of state, maybe look into it. Maybe there's other mechanisms or funding opportunities to help with PG&E along with that.
Yeah, definitely. And it's something that, we want to stay on top of now in the future, for sure.
Agreed. Thanks, Gary.
You bet.
And Mr. Mayor, I think I'll hand the virtual gavel back over to you. I did not yet open the public hearing. These were questions from the staff report.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem Sandine. All right, so then with that, we will open the public hearing on item 12. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments submitted under item 12?
No, Mayor, we did not receive any public comment.
All right, then with that, we will close the public hearing. We'll return to the council for any further questions or discussion, or for a motion.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and move the recommended action.
I'll second it.
It's been moved by Councilmember Ledesma and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Sandine. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on item 12?
Yes, Councilmember Guerrero.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sandine.
Aye.
Councilmember Orozco.
Aye.
Councilmember Ledesma.
Aye.
And Mayor Cabaldon.
Aye. And that motion carries. Thank you very much, Gary. That will bring us now to item 13, which is continued public hearing and first reading of ordinances 20-8, 20-9, and 20-10 regarding development agreements for a proposed wholesale cannabis logistics distribution transportation, cannabis manufacturing, and commercial indoor cannabis cultivation facility at 3939 West Capitol Avenue, Units D and E. Ms. Allen?
Good evening, Mayor Cabaldon and members of the council. This project includes 3 development agreements for wholesale cannabis distribution, manufacturing, and a cultivation facility located at 3939 West Capitol Avenue in Suites D and E. The project would be located in a multi-tenant building, and the 2 proposed suites are approximately 8,100 square feet in size combined. No customers would be visiting the facilities. No signage would be on the building or on their company vehicles. The Planning Commission considered the CUP for this item back on June 18th and recommended, they approved the CUP and recommended approval to the council for the DAs. Staff from both the police and fire departments have reviewed the plans and have toured the facility. The applicant has worked very closely with staff from the PD on the security plan for the project, and a completed safety and security plan would need to be approved by staff from the PD prior to initiation of operation of the facility. That concludes my presentation. The applicant is in attendance, although they don't have a formal presentation for you, but they are here should you have questions for them. We are recommending approval of the DAs, and I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Are there questions for staff or for the applicant at this time? Mayor Pro Tem Sandine?
It's more of a comment. When these first came to us years ago, I at the time brought up security. So I'm pleased, Kathy or Ms. Allen, to hear that both fire and PD have carefully reviewed this and that there will be a security plan. That was my concern years ago, and continues to be my concern. But I think as long as those items are addressed, I feel comfortable with this moving forward.
Councilmember Roscoe.
Thank you. Yeah, I echo Mayor Pro Tem's comments. I think we had tremendous, sorry, we had many lengthy conversations with respect to many of the requests that were coming in a couple years ago. You know, we've covered all of these: distribution, transportation, manufacturing, and cultivation. The only thing we're short of is you know, dispensaries and storefronts, and I appreciate that. That doesn't. There's nothing in this proposal for that. I did have a question. I was looking at the photo, the visual of the grounds, and I noticed that there were several vehicles that were, if you're looking at the picture, they were to the left. And I'm wondering, what's the business or nature of the neighboring business or whatever that is next door?
The building actually, the suite actually adjacent to it is actually another cannabis business, or it's going to be. It's in the process of converting.
Okay, but it's not in operation currently?
No, but it's getting relatively close.
I see. And so they're not related, the two neighboring businesses, I assume?
No.
Okay. And just to clarify, there are no schools or daycare within 500 yards of this proposal?
No, it's in an industrial area, so none of those are within that distance range.
Excellent. All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Guerrero.
Thank you. Kathy, thank you for the presentation. I do want to ask a couple of quick questions. One is, have the neighboring businesses been, well, I guess they're aware, but those that are in the vicinity, are they aware of the plan before us?
Yes, all the neighbors within 500 feet received a notice about the project, both at the Planning Commission level and for this hearing.
Okay, and then just related to the history of cannabis companies, just making sure, you know, looking at the history and what is our protocol for that, whether it be any kind of activity, illegal, legal, what is our protocol to review and assess companies that are interested in a business here in West Sacramento?
Prior to taking in their application, they have all provided us with a packet of information about their proposed company, information about the principals in the company, etc., that has been reviewed. The city has a multi-department cannabis committee that meets, I believe it's quarterly, and kind of vet these things amongst other duties.
Okay. And our audit practice for revenue, what is it that we have planned for this particular company?
I can respond to that. This is Roberta Raper, Services Director. We have a contract with HDL to perform financial audits. Typically, those don't happen until there's typically about a year's worth of activity under their belt, because the audits that they're performing is based on their gross receipts, their tax reporting and revenue calculations. So there's nothing planned until they get up and running.
Okay. All right, very good, Roberta.
All right, so with that, we're going to open the public hearing on item 13. Madam Clerk, do we have any submissions for public comments under the public hearing?
No, Mayor, we did not receive any public comments.
All right, then with that, we'll close the public hearing and return to the council for any further questions or discussion or for a motion.
No questions, but I'll move the recommended action.
And I'll second.
All right, it's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Sandine and seconded by Councilmember Orozco. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Councilmember Ledesma.
Aye.
Councilmember Guerrero.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sandine.
Aye.
Councilmember Orozco.
Aye.
And Mayor Cabalden.
Aye. All right, that motion carries. We're now going to proceed to item 14, which is update and actions on the city's COVID-19 response. And the committee of the mayor pro tem, and that meets weekly with the city manager, determine we're going to shift the format under which we consider this item each week. Because it is a weekly item that is accumulative, we're going to focus both the presentation, but also the questions and discussion on those items that are part of the presentation. So this is an update item. And so we're asking members of the council to please contain the comments and the questions to those items that are relevant to either the highlighted items in the report, or if there is a relevant update to COVID-19 from one of our liaison assignments, the Air District or the Housing Authority or the Habitat Board, one of our official liaison assignments, that would also be appropriate. But rather than consider the totality of all issues every single week, we're going to consider this item in the same way that the city manager prepares it, with a focus on those updated items. So with that, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. So yeah, I'll take it from the highlighted items and then just work our way through the report. You'll notice some changes this week, and the effort was made to sort of streamline the data reporting in the report. But it's a first draft of it, if you will. We condensed the case data into monthly data, and you'll see we don't have any information for August yet. And one of the things I plan to do going forward is to kind of break down on the last 3 to 4 week basis the weekly data, but then we'll continue to collapse the monthly data going forward. To me, it's helpful to see the comparison, especially when you look back to where we were in March and April, particularly looking at the hospitalization rate and comparing that to where we are today. For example, to notice some of the trends that show us where we may be in the current time versus where we were in the beginning of this thing. So as of today, we now have 461 cases in West Sacramento. That's up from 11 in the past few days. The hospitalization rate, we have 55 at this point. No new deaths in West Sacramento. And that's data now that it wasn't provided in the city level in previous reports. The county now has the ability to sort through their dashboard by city geography. So I'm going to continue to do that and report it in that way for both West Sacramento and the county. I also want to draw your attention to, we do have the positivity rate for testing throughout the county. Unfortunately, I don't have that at the city level available just yet, but one thing to note, as of today, the positivity rate actually went down by 0.5% or so, which is a positive development. It just shows that there's still as many tests being done as in past, maybe the past week or so, but the positivity rate is trending the right way. We'll have to continue to watch that as we go forward, but hopefully some of the new restrictions that have been put in place, that combined with people really adhering to the mask requirements and just taking more personal responsibility, we hope to see that continue to go the right way. So that's the summary on the case data. Similarly, on the public safety calls in the next section there, we decided to just simply collapse that data into a yearly comparison. We were finding that remarkably, really, especially on the fire calls, there hadn't been a huge change in the year-over-year reporting. So instead of reporting on a weekly basis, we're gonna continue to aggregate those numbers, but it'll be on an annual comparison from 2019 to 2020 during the same period, March 1st through the current time frame. So you see the trend has continued. The police calls are a little bit down, fire calls just a tiny bit up, but generally consistent from the last year. Going into the next section, I know you got an update last meeting on testing, some positive developments there. While the city owned property on Riverbank Road is no longer a testing site, we now have Ellicott Health Center on Halyard now testing Monday through Friday. My understanding is it's more of a drop-in where it's not requiring registration, although it is an option. So it's a little bit of a different format. They're conducting about 400 tests per week. The plan is to hopefully make it available through the end of the year based on demand. And the county is going to be working with us and with the testing provider to monitor that and to see if it makes sense to continue on a Monday through Friday basis, 8 to 5, like they're starting with. And my understanding is they're kind of going to be looking on a week-to-week basis. But the goal would be that it would be able to continue through at least the end of the year. So that's just a quick update on testing. So next, I want to give you a brief update on some of the parks issues. And one thing that we're going to be proposing to do is to bring forward a workshop as we look to reopen facilities and parks like the rec center behind me, for example. You probably saw the email today that we're going to be reopening the rec center only on an outdoor basis for lap swim, tennis, and pickleball. Doing that under very strict precautions and measures to prevent spread, following all of the guidance from the CDC and the state public health order. But that's just one example. We have other parks where outdoor activities are occurring. We're doing that in consultation with the county and making sure that we're monitoring the activities and giving approval to the ones that we know of. But there's a lot of questions I'm sure both the council and members of the community and also our parks commissioners probably have about the science behind that, some of the thinking on how to safely reopen outdoor activities. And so we plan to bring forward a workshop. We're not sure quite yet if that'll be formatted as either a council workshop or something maybe jointly with the Parks Commission. I'll work with Tracy Michael, our Parks Director, on the plan for that, but that'll be coming in the next couple of weeks. Also, even though I don't have it highlighted here, I do want to give you a heads up that next week we also plan to bring forward an item related to childcare. So on the childcare assistance topic, we've before had the council authorize a interim fee for the Learning Ladder program that allowed us to operate kind of two different options for families with different age children. That rate, we did it in anticipation of schools reopening, and so it's set to expire, I believe, next week. So we're going to bring back an item on the agenda next week to extend that fee, which will allow us to continue to operate Learning Ladder in its current format. But we're also, given the fact that school is going to begin in distance learning, Lighthouse and DEX are going to be starting next week. The school district, Washington Unified, starts the week after. Obviously, that's a big topic for people, and we're going to continue to look at what else can be done in addition to what we're doing with the Learning Ladder program. So expect more in the next few weeks on that. Other than that, we have the updates to our social media stats in the regular section. Did want to point out that the city received its first CARES reimbursement from the state. So that's being done in installments. We're continuing to request the funding based on expenses that were eligible under CARES Act. I'm told by Roberta that we have plenty of costs the city has already incurred that would be CARES Act eligible. So it's going to help us backfill some of the costs that we've had to incur that aren't necessarily eligible for FEMA reimbursement. So that's been helpful. We could certainly use a lot more money though, and I know at the federal level that's a topic of discussion. We talked a lot tonight about Project Room Key and Home Key. I don't want to belabor that, but I do just want to point out the basics. In Room Key, we have upwards now of about 80 people still housed in the original Room Key properties. We're going to continue to try to keep that going until we can transition, hopefully, into Home Key. And really on Home Key, I just want to point out, great discussion earlier. You got a lot of information about our prospects, but we have to, I'll just reiterate that we have to have realistic expectations about our ability to secure these properties. Very difficult. We have some experience buying motels. It's a very difficult process. And owners have to be cooperative. That's what it comes down to. And so we're working hard on that. Raul and Mark Sawyer and others on the team in economic development have been doing a lot of work to get us ready. So we have all of our consultants teed up to do the phase ones and appraisals and all the necessary requirements, but still a lot of work to do on negotiating with willing parties. So I'll continue to keep you updated on that as we go forward. And then finally, I'm not going to give a lot of detail on the relief fund. The Vice Mayor may have more to share, but some good news there. In addition to allocating almost all of the grant funding, we've had success in receiving private funding. And a lot of the private funding for that program, you'll see in the attachment I included with this report, is coming from West Sacramento companies. So I know there's some effort that's been ongoing with that, and I think it's a good signal that, you know, in West Sac, some of our companies are really getting behind this. But also the county has pledged additional funding through their CARES Act funds, and I know the leadership committee is working on how to allocate that. So the vice mayor can probably give more detail. And I believe that is the last update I have highlighted. It is, so I'll stop there and see if there's questions. Thank you.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem Centine, since you've been called out by the Director of Emergency Services, I know you're our official representative also to the League of Cities, and the League and the U.S. Conference of Mayors have been quite active, along with our partners at the County Association nationally and some of the other local government entities pushing hard. And we are, as the city manager alluded to, we are in a dogfight in the Capitol with respect to it securing funds for cities. You know, as this council is well aware, you know, the largest cities in the country, including Sacramento, received a direct allocation. We didn't, like the vast majority of cities in America, and it's really critical that local governments of all kinds get some relief and support, particularly given the looming economic and rental and other crises that are facing us. So I think the council is well aware we're pushing very hard locally. Fortunately, our congresswomen and our senators are both supportive, very supportive of those efforts. But I know we're collaborating both through the League and then particularly the U.S. Conference of Mayors on pushing. We have an extraordinary advocacy effort going on underway right now in Texas and in many other states where senators are going to be critical votes. So, Mayor Pro Tem Centine.
Thank you. And indeed, the California League of Cities is working and advocating on our behalf in all cities, especially smaller cities like ours, to receive support and funding. Regarding the COVID fund, the report that our city managers provided is a great summary, and it included in his report was a report from Jessica Hubbard, who's a YOLO Foundation Executive Director, and it outlined where the fundings come from, what current to date grants have been given, and some other data on grants that there was such a large number, 80, I think 80 or 81 were actually applied for at the very beginning. I'm just looking at the report now. The other thing I was going to mention is the county, as city manager mentioned, did allocate $250,000 more from their CARES Act, recent CARES Act funding they received for distribution. That announcement will come out, I think, within this week. The funds in the new set are not going to be covering things that the county's also added to. They've added funding to other nonprofit to help other large nonprofits do frontline service in our community in Yolo County. So we'll be looking at some other things that we've discussed today on our call, things like supporting childcare, rent assistance, technology access, things that aren't currently frontline. That'll come out within this week. So I will share that with you when that comes out, probably through the report next week at council.
All right, thank you very much. Other questions for the Director of Emergency Services regarding the update items or reports from our liaison groups? All right, Councilmember Roscoe.
Thank you. Sorry, I just got a note that my battery is running low on my computer, so hopefully we'll make it through. Essentially, I'd just like to reiterate my interest in exploring potential opportunities for families and children in West Sacramento related to COVID and all of the recent changes with respect to kids and now having to do distance learning. I know that impacts a lot of people in West Sacramento who are grappling now with issues of childcare and trying to navigate the necessity of keeping food on the table, but also having to pay someone to watch their kids. And I'm one of those people who's a working parent who didn't have much of a choice and still don't. I'm still working on that. And I would love the city to consider getting involved, even if it's on a temporary basis. And this is a conversation we had at our city school 2x2 a few weeks ago, where our school district is looking for facilities to help educate kids in the, I mean, it was in a different context, but we have city facilities that we could be using. And even if it's outdoor, I'd love to see some type of STEM camp, coding camp, science camp, even something with inclusivity and social justice. The sky's the limit. Oh.
All right, I think we know what happened there. But this was an item that did come out of the city school 2x2. I guess what I would suggest, Mr. Laurel, since we've lost Councilmember Roscoe, is that one appropriate way for that to look at that topic is in following up on the 2x2 is through the item that we'll be taking up with respect to the use of facilities in Parks and Rec and outdoor activities. Along those lines. Now at least on my screen, I see you twice, Councilmember Roscoe.
I'm here. I'm back.
One frozen and one live.
Well, I'm back. If I can make a few closing comments, if that's all right, Mr. Mayor. I just, I have multiples, and I am considering signing up my children for a camp, a local camp. That will impact me of about $1,800 a month. That is money that, no one is, accounted for at this juncture, and it's exorbitant. So I'm not suggesting that our city fund free programs for all students in all of West Sacramento. What I'm looking forward to considering is maybe a subsidy of a temporary set of camps, somewhat like even opportunities like what we saw this at the beginning of our meeting today with the Home Run Work Readiness Student Civic Engagement Programs. I mean, these are opportunities for us to engage kids through K-8, kids that would otherwise, and I fear that they'd be left alone if parents have to choose between working and taking care of their children because they can't afford it. But I'd love to see that area of the home run program honor, like we could even facilitate it through that vehicle and consider it as even a temporary effort to help ease the stress on families and parents, but also give kids an opportunity to not just be babysat, but also to get valuable skills in education. Was there a problem with my volume here? Is my sound not working? Okay, fantastic.
So your battery died altogether. So.
Hey, I'm a working parent. That's what happens. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Guerrero?
Yes, thank you. There has been a study by Marcy Whitebook on the lack of childcare statewide and how this is going to be very difficult for childcare providers. I think it's a lack because there are providers who really have a hard time wanting to provide the childcare. They don't want to, catch COVID. And then also, the parents are having a hard time sending their kids to childcare because they don't want to bring it home to family members. Maybe there is a way to explore options to provide very small groups among very small, families where they can share one person, have a distance learning, and that way it could be done in a home or in a safe space in a residential setting. Because I know now with the funding that we have with the coronavirus relief, it is flexible funding that we use. And I think even with Measure E, it is flexible funding. So it doesn't need to be provided in a regular setting, like a school setting. So what we've learned over a period of time is that those enclosed settings that are vulnerable to catch COVID. They may not show the symptoms, but they could could transmit it to other family members. And so seeing those challenges and seeing, that was a study that I shared with Justine, Aaron, so they can look further into what we can do to apply the lessons learned and overcome those barriers here in West Sacramento. And then also working with our partners in Yolo County. And so just, as a grandmother with a special needs grandson, distance learning is going to be a huge challenge. This is not going to be easy to apply. What their school is recommending, and working with the number of parents who are experiencing these challenges. So I definitely want to be in touch with how the city can provide additional support for the school district. I know their school district is overwhelmed with the demand, and I'm very glad they're providing the Chromebooks and the hotspots that are needed for families to be able to continue the educational sessions at home. But I'm also very concerned with families that have special need children that need the additional support.
May I add, I'm sorry, there are actually programs in West Sacramento that are operating with the 10 or the 9 children with 1 instructor. We actually had a trustee and a council member who had children in the program, and they take adequate precautions in order to make sure that the children are not sick or coming in with any type of temperature and whatnot. So, and the distancing was implemented. I realize that this is new to everybody, but there are ways that we can implement programs that aren't in the home. I mean, obviously the home is an issue for a lot of people, especially those who don't have the opportunity to benefit from networking with other people through school, and other people who just don't have a choice and have to leave. I worry about their kids being left at home. So, with that, I think that we should really consider the possibility of doing some type of program. We already have a lot of experience in this area, and this can be done. It's already being done, and it's already being offered during the school year by other private sector organizations. I think as a city, we should take care of our people, and this is a big issue for West Sacramento locally, and as a working parent for me personally.
All right. Any other questions or comments on the relevant to the updates in the report? Are there reports from the liaison assignments? All right. So, Mr. City Manager, was the prior direction of the council to move forward with this Parks and Rec workshop coming up. And I just, this is uncharted territory for us as a council to engage in this way. And actually, the conversation we've just been having is a reminder that as we do that, as we convene around this, we are having the workshop for the purpose of learning together and potentially of learning with the parks commissioners. So I know when we invite the parks commissioner, but as commissioners, if we do decide to hold that meeting jointly, for them and for us, really to ask folks not to come with a series of demands and $80 million proposals and whatever. That particular session is to try to understand the best that we can, in some sense doing what the school board's already done with schools, which is they're all bad choices. And so, there's no obvious one. So how can we do the best that we can given those limitations? But to do that, they needed to understand the science around indoor versus outdoor, the science around transmission, all of that. And so the purpose of the workshop is really to help us be smarter and it is not an invitation for either us as individuals or the Parks Commission to say, here's my 27 proposals to bring forward. There may be a time for that, but that's not the purpose of the particular workshop that's coming up. I know many council members have gotten questions, when are playgrounds going to open up, or are they? Oh, you opened the pool, but not the playground. What are the public health reasons why that might be the case, or where are there policy choices that need to be made based on the ambiguities in the science? So as we move forward to that workshop, which I think is relevant to this question around distance learning and camps and childcare as well, that we kind of enter into that more from a stance of inquiry and less about around a set of agenda topics. That said, the issue that has been raised, emphasized tonight, because it was already on our agenda from the 2x2 and from our initial work as a city at the beginning of the pandemic with respect to childcare itself, continues to be that opportunity. And so I do hope I'll add my voice, to Councilmember Orozco, as we did in the 2x2 as well, that moving forward with looking for opportunities, leveraging opportunities principally. We will not have the resources to staff up, programs for every child in every park or what have you. I'm a teacher myself. Those are very expensive propositions to try to mount. So, but in the extent to which we can look for opportunities to leverage the work of others and good ideas and resources from others to be able to fill a gap here or there to create the infrastructure and just to provide some paths for parents to find tools and opportunities as well. It's going to be it's worth us doing. So I'm certainly supportive of doing that. And we know we've all said on the council that this is a key priority and a key need, both for the kids and for their families and for the nonprofits and the businesses that depend on those families being able to go to work and pay their bills. That's important that we do that we try to be as creative as we can in creating some support. So appreciate the what's coming forward from the city manager and the preview of the upcoming workshop, and thanks to our Councilmember Roscoe and the discussion that we've had tonight as well. And with that, thanks, Mr. City Manager. Can we move on then to the city manager, to the council calendar? Sorry, Ms. Berlin.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I have no update tonight. So.
All right, are there questions on the no updates? Seeing none, city manager reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one update tonight. I'm you're all definitely aware of the situation that happened in Beirut yesterday regarding the explosion of what turned out to be an explosive material that is often used for fertilizer. I'm sure there are people that have questions about, hey, what does that mean locally? We have facilities, we have things moving through town that have sensitivities. There are some things that have changed in West Sacramento regarding the one facility that previously had stored something that was particularly more hazardous. That has changed, but there may not be a lot of awareness about that. So I wanted to let you know that based on the circumstances of that event, I'm going to be speaking with the fire marshal. I've already talked to the port COO about reaching out to certain businesses in town, the railroad and whatnot, just to be asking for more transparency about what is stored, what isn't, and safety protocols and information that can be available to us in the event that we have some sort of event. Hopefully nothing ever similar to what happened yesterday, but we definitely always want to be as prepared as we can. So I just want to let you know that, and there'll be follow-up from staff going forward.
All right, thank you, Mr. City Manager. And our city was actually one of the leaders in the effort from a few years back now to demand some accountability and transparency from the fuel trains that were running through our city and others, and connected to the Valero project in Benicia in particular. And our fire chief and department were really seen as some of the most knowledgeable and skilled advocates and leaders in that space to assure better safety, because like other communities on the rail lines and other communities that host ports, we don't always have the kinds of access to information and detailed information. And some companies will say, well, we can't give that to you for competitive reasons. And this horrifying disaster in Beirut is just more evidence of why it is essential that the first responders have the basic information that they need in order to protect the community and to protect themselves as they're responding, and know exactly what we're dealing with, and also that the appropriate regulatory protections are in place. And so we worked hard on advocacy with the governor's office in conjunction with Supervisor Saylor and others along the rail line. And I believe it's time for us to renew that effort just as a reminder to our partners at the regional and state level that this issue has clearly not gone away. And one of the many lessons from the Beirut experiences that California and the region and some of our own companies and transport providers need to do a better job in terms of providing full transparency of what exactly is being stored and what exactly is being shipped at all times. All right, City Attorney report.
I have no report tonight.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Is there staff direction from members of the council? When we have no future agenda item requests, So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Been moved by Councilmember Orozco and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Sandin that the meeting stand adjourned. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilmember Ledesma.
Aye.
Councilmember Orozco.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sandin.
Aye.
And Mayor Cabaldon.
Aye. With that, the motion carries 5-0 and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much. And thanks again to staff for their great work with the student teams. What a terrific way to start off the meeting, but also to remind us of the future and of the hope and of the potential and the power of young people in our community as well. Really special evening. So thanks everyone and good night.
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 Good night.